Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Cultural Stimulation Incorporated YouTube page. I'm your host. My name is Chanda Sampa. I'm here today to share some information with you. I was brainstorming, trying to think of the title of what this sit down was going to be today, and this is what I landed on. So today's talk is going to be called Ancient Wisdom Meets Modern Awakening. That's what we're going to call this talk. So I have a very special guest, as you might have already seen, with me to go down this journey. His name is Czar Comrade Mwandama Kalimina. Please help me in welcoming our guest. Welcome to the show, sir. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for this.
So if maybe I had butchered your name or didn't pronounce it properly, please, you can reintroduce yourself to the audience.
No, actually, it's okay, and it's my privilege that my brother here has allowed me to be on the table with him, and his introduction has been well. Coming from the Black Panther Party, representing in Africa, Czar Morgan Mwandama Kalimina. Those are my names, which my comrade has mentioned earlier. No, thank you so much, and it's kind of a very wonderful discussion we have today.
Thank you. Yeah, you're very welcome, sir. You're very welcome, sir. So just a little bit of a background of how this moment came into inception, how it came to be. So I was watching St. Michael, and when I was watching that interview of St. Michael, there are sentiments that I agreed with. Yeah, but the people who were speaking to him addressed him in a tone which I felt was borderline disrespectful.
Okay.
Yes, so I mentioned it to Mulenga, producer. Do you remember that?
Okay,
yeah, I was like, I was watching St. Michael. I would like to interview him one day. Then, as fate or coincidence would have it, but if you've been watching this channel by now, I don't believe in coincidences, right. So I would rather call it a synchronization. Yeah, a synchronization of events occurred that led me into meeting the Czar Comrade Mwandama Morgan Kalimina.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
So when I met you, because I noticed you had dreadlocks.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, dreadlocks. So when we were speaking, I was like, do you know St. Michael? I'd like to speak to him. I heard this interview was doing, and I agreed with a lot of the sentiments, and I just feel like a lot of people should hear his message. Then you told me that you could get me with other people who can, yes. So when I actually spoke to you, I came to the realization that the things that St. Michael was speaking about, you were also speaking about. So I actually didn't have to interview or sit down with St. Michael because the ancestors brought you in my path. Yes.
Which we can't call coincidence.
No. Synchronization, as I like to call it. Yeah, so I met you then. We had a talk, and we just started talking about various things in life and philosophy, and African ancestry and spirituality, Pan-Africanism. Yeah, so when we were speaking about that, I got inspired and it triggered something in me. So I just feel you're the appropriate person to help me relay this message to our people. And that is how we found ourselves at this precise moment. Now, how we got into the topic of the day, which is, as you may remember, is called Ancient Wisdom Meets Modern Awakening. They say, there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard it, comrade, they say, a wound concealed is a wound unhealed. So I feel nobody has to tell us. Everybody knows that a lot of things on the African continent, particularly in Zambia, are not well.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is where I've come for us to try and come up with some solutions for our people. So if we could begin from there, comrade, would you kindly, from your opinion or your standpoint, in fact, before we get into everything, pardon me, you can tell them about what you do and who you are and the great things you've accomplished. Yes.
Yeah, I know some of the things which about me. I'm sure as we continue being together with my viewers, some of them will start putting capes and stuff. They'll start knowing me who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But the simplicity of who I am, I'm a person who believes that all power belongs to the people. Now, coming to what we are here, the table has brought us together. We are trying to discuss the ancient way and how it's going to bring awakening to our modern understanding, if I can rephrase it
Yes,
in
yes.
my way to understand it.
Yes.
Now, when I hear ancient in every statement, what pops in my head is always history. Because when somebody talks of an ancient things, it means that that person is trying to tell me about something I can remember, or somebody can remember something, so that I can understand. With the statement they use that it's not an hidden thing that African society suffered victim economically, politically, psychologically.
Spiritually.
Yes, actually, I normally like putting spiritually and psychological because it's deficiency of certain information which they've denied unto us.
Okay.
Now, for us to enjoy an idea of understanding how ancient information can bring modern awakening,
Yes.
I believe that it's better we understand who we are. Because I can't understand my brother Chanda if I don't know myself. Because whatever I'll be analyzing about him will be either in the negative vibe or in the positive vibe. Because the first thing, I don't know myself. So once I know myself, then I will understand how I can relate with Brother Chanda. Even if Brother Chanda has a broken ankle, like he gave an example of a wound, I'll see how I can suit that wound because I've been in that wound. That's how a brother's keeper is all about.
Yes.
Now, coming back to this ideology of this kind of a discussion or question in it,
Yes.
I would say that I would rather visit to history. I don't know, that's what I can answer. I would rather, if you give me time, I visit to history.
Yes.
Than the platform.
The platform is yours, sir. You can go ahead. In a simplistic way that people can understand. If I may just rephrase the question, I would say, where do you think most of the problems that us as Africans and Zambia specifically are facing, where do these problems stem from? What are the problems? First of all, what are the problems? Where do they stem from? And how can we combat them?
Right. Like I said earlier, Dr. John Henry Kirk is one of the greatest historians we've ever had in history of African philosophy. He only used to say that the relationship between history and us should be like a relationship between a mother and a child. So in short, for us to know what is today, we need to understand what happened yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, for this cause, that's why I'm asking that, can we visit our history?
Yes.
Africa has got its own diversity in history. And Africa, what we know of Africa is really small. I would say it's about 10% of what Africa is. Why? Because we need to, like what he tagged, we need to visit ancient history. There's certain history, his story, which he has told that to us, not our story, and there's what we call ancient history.
Yes.
So part of the courses which we normally provide is what we call, they call it Egyptology, but as we don't call it Egyptology, we say ancient Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what, because it's beyond what they tag together, the Arabs which we see. Yeah, so we have got, because of the integration of education, or say the misfortune of miseducation in Africa,
yes,
we tend to think that our beginning has been very sorrow and full of misery, even every African child when he's born on this planet. Why? Because history has been cut with us. Because when we remember, when somebody asks about African history, what pops into our head is what? Slavery,
colonization,
the people spearing themselves.
Primitivity, as they say.
That's what pops. That's what builds us. And this takes me back to the work which I'm working on, which is called agnothology.
Okay.
This is the study of ignorance, because I know that ignorance has been the product of which Africans have been the best buyer of that ignorance. And I can assure you, because this is what has really happened, because our accident in history, I may call it.
Yes.
Now, when we look at our history in depth, we've got a very, very huge history behind our backs, which we don't know. Mm-hmm. That's why even when they took our, people call them slaves, yes. But I like calling them prisoners of war.
Yes.
Because they never took mere people. They took people who rebel. I remember last time I was telling you that I enjoy a slave who is a rebel.
Yes.
Yeah, than a slave who is very obedient, because a rebel slave is a very good slave because he's got a heart for others to be freed. That's what such what they did to us is they got to cut that information, and they know that when they took them that side, they took philosophers, they took scientists, they took people who rebelled against that strange foreign culture which entered. And that time when that entered, it was the beginning of sorrow. And that history behind, they will never tell you. That's why even in religion, like Christianity, when you tell them, when they say that the only way to heaven is through Jesus. But when you ask them, what about my great-great-great-grandfather before Great David Livingstone came to Africa? Where is he?
So, comrade, supposing somebody is intrigued by what you've said so far in this sit-down, how does one go about acquiring this knowledge? Where can you find ancient African knowledge? How do you get into African consciousness? Where are some of the places you looked to sort out this kind of knowledge? What books did you read? Who did you talk to?
Yeah, it's a very good question which you've given unto me.
Yeah.
The reason it's called African conscious, it's conscious. It has nobody who persuades you to be. That's why it's all about know thyself. When you know thyself, it will be cool. It's very easy to be conscious and to be a conscious brother.
Yes.
I remember there are some of the words which I choose to use. Where one of the great master kept on saying that is ancient African paradox.
Yes.
They say that when there's ears are ready, the student. When the ears are ready, then the master always appears.
Okay.
Those are the facts about consciousness.
Yes.
Now, when you also asked about the history of us African black people,
yes.
Just like I said earlier, it's very difficult for you to know other stuff when you don't know yourself. Because you should start by knowing thyself.
Okay.
Know thyself. That's what it means to be conscious.
Yes.
Now, that's why earlier on I gave also some examples of who we are as people who suffered victim, like you are to put it in that way.
Yes.
Africans have suffered victim because it's because of ignorance, which has been the product for them, and they've been buying that.
Yeah.
Now, this happens due to accident of history. That's why I was trying to give you that when you think of who you are, most of the time it will take you that no, it's from slavery, blah blah blah. That's the only history we know, but we've got great history, and people like Anki Diop, Sheikh Anki Diop, was one of the greatest scientists, also an Afrocentric.
Yes.
He's from Senegal. He said that Africa, he discovered and agreed by UNESCO that Africa is a cradle of civilization. But few African black people knows that. Now, for you to have that pinnacle of civilization, it means that your culture was so rich, or your culture is so rich, just that you don't know yourself. That's why somebody has chosen it deliberately to hide you from who you are. That's what I say, that when the prisoners of war were taken on the ship to the west, they took prisoners of war, they took the information out of us, and it was easy to divide and rule us. And this is the interim where you see us, they are ushering us into colonialization. It was very, very easy because people can rebel against that kind of culture, because culture is science. Culture is engineering. That's what we call the culture and diversity. So we were great. When it comes to medics, we were great. But today it's a different thing. That's why the ideology of Asian knowledge meeting modern day awakening is also a very good shot which you brought to me, because how can we get awakened if we don't know our Asian history?
Yeah, we can't.
Yes. Because people even today, when you talk of the pharaonic age, or you call them the pharaohs, people think about the Arabs. That's what they know. But how are they going to be awakened? Because they need ancient information.
Yes. So now you've just pivoted into something I wanted to bring up later on, but we might as well just get into it now.
Right.
You mentioned the word colonialism.
Right.
So our Western counterparts, our former colonizers, if you can put it that way, they are planning for the next 100, 200 years. You can see they are developing AI, artificial intelligence. The likes of Elon Musk are going to Mars, and they're going to the moon. They are even flirting with the idea of transhumanism and transferring consciousness and all those sorts of things. So where does that...
They're doing the best.
Yeah, for themselves. Yes. So where does that leave us Africans? Are we going to continue seeking aid from the West? Are we just going to wait for investors to come and invest in us? What do you think Africans can do to also prepare themselves for the next 100 years, just as our former colonizers are doing?
The case there is, in every battle you need to know your enemy. Yes, that's how it is. So the case also still gets back to the same. We don't know ourselves, yes, because when you look at the level where they call it modernization, where they are, as it looks like it's an ocean in between, and which is true, because that's the reality, but it's different from perspective.
Yes.
Here's the thing, like I said, the product which they've been selling is secrecy and suppression, document destruction, and again what we normally call cultural political selectivity. This is how they sell the product of ignorance. And if you've been taken as a slave, it means that you're going to be denied information. Because you're a slave, the only thing you're supposed to apply is your physical services. That's what they need from you. And that's why we always say that we look like we die today, because more than 400 years in slavery, it means that society has been denied industrial evolution. And this has reached us where we are.
Yes.
Yeah, today. Now, what should we do about that? It's identify. If I identify myself, I'm going to know who I am. I normally like giving an example of when the Pearl Harbor bombing, we triggered the Second World War.
Yes.
The Japanese, when they did all such kind of destruction to Japan, they surrendered, but they told them that we do leave two things for us: our culture and our language.
Yes.
Once your culture is intact, it means that your identity is intact, and when your identity is intact, even your ideology will be intact, your philosophy will be intact. It won't be foreign, and nobody can rule you.
Yes.
And for that cause, that society can wake up from a dystopian oppression.
Yes.
I call it dystopian oppression because this is the business of certain developed countries. They have been exercising that on developing countries.
Okay.
This was the ideology which was born after Second World War. This is how IMF was introduced, World Bank was introduced, because they were there to preach what we call dependent syndrome,
okay.
theory. They are there to preach international borrowing. They are there to... All these elements, these are elements, what we call the elements of neocolonialism.
Yes.
That's why in the stage of slavery, what we see next is colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
Next, what we see today is neocolonialism.
Okay.
What he normally does, an enemy comes, he only just changes his faces, but the agenda is the same. So if we want to wake up that we're in prison, because few people know that they're in concrete jungle, because we are happy slaves. Yeah, like the way Samora Machel to put it, because he said that some of them who were colonized by the Lisbon, they like telling us that we were colonized by small people, but them that were colonized by the Britons, they were colonized by big people. And that aspect has been most of the African for some time, that we get comfortable who we are in the round robin. I'm born kindergarten, primary schools, secondary school, tertiary, I put on the next tie, I start working, I build the house, I die, my children go in the same way. But where is dollarization has been moving and your society has been a victim of our situation on the global base.
One of the things that I find quite fascinating about you is it's not only the fact that you have all this, I would consider, wealth of knowledge about Pan-Africanism and just basically what it means to know thyself and all the other great things that you know. What I also like is that you're actually working on projects that seek to implement these philosophies. Like you're in these rooms where people are discussing things that can actually make a tangible change to an African's life. So if you don't mind, could you please tell us a bit more about that and what you do with regards to helping the African movement go forward?
Yeah, that question is coming like in the physical surviving or in this. Anyway, I understand what my brother is trying to stress out here.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for the compliment.
Yeah, welcome, brother. It's truly deserved.
Me, and I've been very much embraced with your information. Still, I always learn a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I've been. Yeah, I understand this. I've been in mining has been part of my priority when it comes to industrialization unit of my African black people, because with me it takes me close to the resources which has been exploited for some time, and the hidden nature of the power they use that. And I understand that because the resources belong to us because they are ours. So I've been into mining, and apart from mining and pushing the agenda of free my fellow black brothers and myself from economical concentrate. We chose that path, and choosing that path, we chose to march even across Africa.
Okay.
What I mean is, here in our country, we have been under the development agency.
Okay.
The organization that I have been attached with. I'm sure there will be some. You see me attending some of the
conferences,
summits, and African Union, especially in line with the liberation of Africa from its economical and oppressive history it has been having.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is that African Continental Free Trade situation, which was implemented in 2014, and we are still working on it. And the ideology of the situation is sustainability towards breaking the borders. In short, we are thinking of reducing custom duty of about 90%. So there's that freedom of trade, and freedom of trade also acts well to unification of the continent.
Yes.
Yeah. So even my daily living is in mining.
Okay.
Then with the organization I represent, it does. We always say that all power belongs to the people.
Yes.
That's a healthy political stance which we've adopted as the Black Panther Party, or the official in the United States. And the vice president is Comrade Bruce Cox, and also the president currently is Eric Griffith. Those are my comrades who've seen me through together. We've had some chapters in Nigeria. I'm sure we'll discuss some of those issues.
Yeah.
We discussed in the past, yeah, sure.
So how does an African end up being a member of the Black Panther Party? How does that happen?
It's not really a magic word, like this one should be a panther, this one should be a panther, or I should... African nationalization has been the theme of an African child, if he really wants Africa to be born again. So African nationalization is the imagery of the Panther organization, because we are Pan-African and we are Afrocentric in all what we do, and even our ideology is pro-African, and
Yes. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. So then now we get to this point. You're helping implement some of these philosophies. Going to all these conferences and meeting all these people, going into these rooms where you can actually enact change. What would your advice be for people out there who are just starting to know themselves, to know thyself? When somebody comes to into a process of knowing themselves, as somebody who knows themselves, how would you advise them to tackle the change and some of the struggles that they're going to face from society, family? How do they handle that? Because I think knowing thyself or gaining consciousness or awakening is not something that's easily done.
Yeah, it's not.
Yes, so what advice would you give to people who are just coming into consciousness? How should they approach things according to your experience?
Yeah, it's one of a very, very critical question, and it's very inevitable to any person who is on that stage trying to, I would say, in that decision of a walk. Consciousness to me, it's really it's sort of self. It's a life which somebody when you are beginning it seems longer, because it's more of starting knowing yourself. Starting knowing yourself, it takes time, because we've been programmed and you need to be reprogrammed. Brother Bob Marley said that emancipate yourself. He never talked about the group. That's why bandwagon never says anything. So inward regeneration, inward knowing. Kwame Nkrumah used to say that I'm not an African because of my skin, but I'm African because Africa is born in me. So what I can say on that point is it's not about a magic word that I'm conscious this, and being conscious is conscious of yourself, conscious of your neighbor, and conscious of the universe. Yes, that's why you can't find any mediator, any agency, even corruption doesn't work. It's different from religion, whereby you need to have one guy standing before, and this is representing you to where your soul came from, which is an illusion which doesn't really work. That's why you see it.
What's an illusion?
An illusion, it's like,
no, I mean, what's the illusion in this context?
In this context,
yeah.
In short, you are believing something which can't work because you've gone to look for God outside yourself when you can find God inside yourself. Yes.
Okay.
So an agent, when it comes, if there's the problems which we see in Christianity, yes. So because there's an agent, that's why money can be even introduced in the church when it's
in closing,
yeah.
I've just got two quick questions, then you can give us your closing remarks. The two quick questions. One, how long have you kept your dreadlocks? And then two, what's around your neck and what does it represent? Yeah, feel free to answer whichever you want first.
Is it?
Yes.
Now I'll start with the ankh. Actually, like I've said, this is the ankh. This is the sign of life.
Okay.
It represents life. It's different from our colleagues whom we see. It represents death. With us, it represents us. It's kind of what was a deep meaning when we go into ancient knowledge.
Yes.
That's what we need. Who is going to transfer that ancient knowledge to bring us to modern awakening, and what kind of products should we remove?
Yes.
So that we can have proper information. It's also part of the information which you need to understand.
Yes.
With modern awakening.
Yes.
Then the other one is
the other one is how long have you kept your hair, and how did you become a Rasta?
Yeah, my roots have been my roots on my head. They are almost 3 years old now.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years old.
They looked quite long from the picture.
Yeah, because they were small in that. Now they are 8 now, which we in numerology we put it like the balance of the universe. 8. That's what we just grab them together.
Okay.
Yes, and they will grow like that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Then I've been a Afrocentric conscious brother. Rastafari and the ice, we are one, but it's a bit different because we are more conscious movement.
Yes.
Yeah, conscious movement, we believe that in our cultural way, we had that. That's why when you see all the excavation which has been going on in Egypt, all the pharaohs have got dreadlocks, these ones they don't, and these represent our antennas. They've got what we call electromagnetic fields, which we normally connect with when it comes to astrology. If we talk about in future, tell you what it means for us African black people.
Yes, thank you for your comment.
Sure, thank you so
much. But since we're here at the closing of this very informative, wonderful sit down, I don't know if you have any closing remarks to the audience, to anybody who's watching this right now. What would you say to any person out there? What's your message?
I wouldn't spoil the soup in the bowl, because it's all about people, us understanding the ancient information which we need for our modern day awakening.
Yes.
So what I can encourage people of us, people of color, and you, my people, is know thyself. That's all that I can. If you know thyself, there you are going to understand who you were and where you are going to. That's my great remarks for everyone. Thank you.
Sorry, one more question. The title Czar, spelled C-Z-A-R.
Right.
How did that come into your name?
That was that title. I remember when I was served as a national director for our country and the Black Panther Party. Then there was some charter which was opened in Nigeria under Brother Kwame. Then there's another one which opened in Monrovia, Liberia. That was under my guide, and there's another one in Kenya. That's why we're doing the Shushwa magazine, African magazine. That's why you can find some of our historical writings.
Could you please just repeat the name of the magazine? Sorry.
Shushwa magazine.
Shushwa
magazine. African Shushwa magazine.
Okay.
I will send it to you so that you see some of our writing when it comes to ancient history and to us today. After I served as a national director, then I think the president and the vice president came to, because we've done some platforms on trans-African trade on African platforms.
Okay.
So that's where I became in charge of all African operations and Black Panther Party. So that's where the title comes from. That's our, so that's how it is.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. So if there's nothing more you'd like to add, I'd just like to say, on behalf of Cultural Stimulation Incorporated, thank you for gracing us with your presence, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us, for encouraging us to know thyself, and just helping awaken the African collective conscience. Yes, thank you for sitting down with us. We really appreciate you, and if nobody has told you, we're in support of you, and we're willing to learn more. So this platform is always open to you whenever you need to come and express yourself and educate our people. This is what we are made for, actually. So thank you for being here. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Munshya, for hosting us here at Affs Guest House in Kalushi. Yes. So thank you to Mr. Munshya and Brother Chisenga as well. And obviously you have to thank Mulenga Kafwilo, the man behind the camera, making us look good and sound good. And everybody who's graced us with presence, Francis as well, for showing his support. As my comrade would say, thank you to all the comrade King brothers out there. But this is where I rest my case, and see you soon.